Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Coaches Report. I'm your host, Victor Herrera, and today I am really blessed and lucky to be joined by a coach who has found a lot of success in the six-man area, Coach John York of Wellman Union. How are you doing today? And thank you for coming on.
I'm doing well, Victor. I appreciate you having me, and I'm blessed as well for you to even be wanting to speak to me and visit with me. So thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. No problem. I know you say blessed and lucky to speak with you. I mean, you're very modest because I did some research and over 100 wins, a 70% winning percentage. I mean, come on, a lot of coaches, they don't find that type of success. Was this success that you found early in a career, or was
Well,
them road the rough patches that you had to just keep pushing through to get over the hump?
I've been very blessed and very fortunate. I grew up working with some coaches that taught me a lot of things, and I was able to grow as a coach, as a young coach, and then I got out of coaching for a little while and went into private business, and then came back. And when I came back, I came into the six-man ranks. Of course, I coached some in a private school while I was in private business. But as success is everyone thinks of success as the wins, and I've been very fortunate to get wins. We've had kids that have always been willing to work, and of course, you're only as good as your last season.
Mhm.
So we're trying to build some things here in Wellman Union, and the kids are working hard. It's something that we've always the thing that we're more concerned with, and I'll expand on that probably as we go through this interview, but we want kids to be successful in life. and that's the main thing. Yeah, we want to win games. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of things that you have to do and that have to take place before you can have those accomplishments. It's the little steps, and that's what we're working on right now.
I like how you said that you took a break and you're kind of putting your experiences out there because some coaches they may be in a spot where they feel they take a break, they may not come back. Like they're not going to get those opportunities coming back. During that break, and yes, you did coach some like private institutions you had mentioned. Was there ever a chance that maybe you felt like you needed to be completely away from sports, or you stayed because you felt eventually one time you will come back?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I knew deep inside that this was my calling. Coaching is my calling, and so when I got out, I knew eventually that I would come back when the time was right. And and I say when I came back in 2007 is when I came back and got back into the coaching. So yeah, I knew I'd come back, and it was the right time for us, and things have gone well. I can't say it enough that we've been very blessed, and I say we, my family, and of course the coaches that I've worked with, because it's not just about me. Mainly it's always about the kids, and it's been about the staff that's worked with me, and for me, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. And Coach York, one thing I kind of want to touch on a little bit is you had talked about kind of starting at a place and then obviously having the break and then coming back in six men. Now, is when you took the break, was that much needed for you to continue to find the success, or did you kind of already pick up where you left off?
Well, we had success. We were having success. I worked with Coach Craig Shores at River Road whenever I got out of coaching the first time, um, and it wasn't really to take a break. It was I guess you could say, a godsend to try a different avenue. It was a time in my career when I wanted to look at trying something different, and that I did that for 10 years before I came back in, and it was time. Of course, I stayed in and around athletics the whole time, so it wasn't really that I took a break from athletics. That first year I was out, I was officiating, so
Oh,
I could still be around the game. And that's a huge thing right now, because there's such a shortage of officials that yeah, and coaches. I gained a new insight by officiating on how you treat officials as a coach. So it was definitely a learning experience, and it's a tough job being an official. So as coaches, we have to realize that, and we have to back off a little bit, so to speak, because those guys are out there doing a job that they don't get paid a whole lot to do. and they enjoy the game as well, or they wouldn't be there.
Absolutely, and how you bring up officials, and I've heard a lot of coaches that have kind of spent times on both sides. And do you feel that that is a benefit? So while maybe somebody who's going to school thinking about coaching, maybe doing that, because one, you help with this shortage, but also you kind of gain that new insight. And also as a coach, you kind of learn like what buttons to press and kind of what not, what
No,
to stay
yeah,
away
well, and from the perspective of officials, you especially in six man, you think, well, they got five guys out there, surely they can manage six, but there's a lot going on even with just six man, and 11 man is the same way. You get a different perspective if you have officiated on a Friday night or in a varsity game, whether it's 11 man, six man, and then you go back into coaching and you're like, yeah, it's a little bit different.
Absolutely. Now, you've made a name for yourself for sure. At least recently in the area that I'm from, and six man. I mean, you were a big name coming to take over Wellman. What sparked your interest in going to six man? Like, what was it that kind of
Well,
pushed you?
of course, my head coaching career has been six man,
Mhm.
since '07, and then but coming to Wellman Union, it's not a job that really I shouldn't say a lot of people really would look at, but I saw it as a challenge. I saw it as an opportunity to help some kids and help them grow. Um, we've got a lot of work to do, and we're far from where we need to be or want to be. But right now, it's one of those things where if you want to be a coach and not bragging or anything like that, but how good a coach are you? Do you
Mhm.
think you can help turn around a program and help give kids an opportunity to be successful? So that's how we took it. My wife and I were, you know, she's been my biggest supporter and everything that I've done coaching wise. And of course my kids, but they're out of the house now, so they don't have to deal with me daily on a daily day basis. Um, but it's just an opportunity. It's an opportunity to help some kids have success that haven't had success in multiple years.
Absolutely. One thing I kind of want to expand on while we're talking about Wellman, you said it best. I mean, it wasn't. It's not a 20 game losing streak into entering this season. It's not necessarily a place where somebody who expects to find instant success would want to be. And I feel today's day and age, even with young kids like my daughter's softball team or my son's t-ball team, not people want to be considered coaches, but don't want to teach the fundamentals. They
No.
want the wins to come already, and it damages the kids' opportunities because then somebody eventually got to teach them, and it does get harder as they come with age. Now, you looking at this from that standpoint, as I'm going to show how good of a coach I am. Do you feel that's kind of being lost with younger coaches, or you still think it's out there?
Well, it's a how do I put it without it sounding really bad? Today's generation, it's I want
Hmm.
it now.
Hmm.
And we all want to win now. I mean, when I came in and visited with the kids the first time, I said, "Hey guys, I'm older, and I didn't come here to build a program. I came here to start a program now. I don't want to wait to build a program here in 2 to 3 years. So we're going to jump on this thing, and we're going to try and do some things that haven't been done, and we just have to work hard and stay focused and pay attention to detail, which is a huge step. Pay attention to detail, and that's something that hasn't been done with these young kids and young adults, I should say. And it's not just me how good a coach I am; it's how good a coach is our staff is. And because we have multiple coaches on staff, and I expect them all to coach, and they're all coaching, and it's a team effort on the coaching side, just like it is for the players. So it's a big deal.
Absolutely, and I went back and I looked at your interview with Pete Christie for the Pigskin Preview, and I was listening to it, and I like that you said we gotta teach them to compete because, like I said, it kind of feels in today's generation, it's like I want it now, and like I just want to manage talent and not coach, and that's the best way I could put it. People want the talent, but they don't want to coach it. You know, you saying you want to teach them to compete. Kind of what does that look like going into a program that hasn't found the success? They may be academically, found the success, but not on the football field.
Right. One of the things, and it's, I think our superintendent, he put it whenever I was visiting with him before we even started anything, little successes could be different. Last year, I know you're familiar with six man. Maybe a lot of people that are watching this are not, but if you're down by 45 points at halftime, game over. Well, every game last year was over at halftime. So, coming into this, our first successes are finishing a game, go 4 quarters. Obviously we've come short 3 weeks in a row of winning a game. Our big goal is we wanted to win our first game, and we had opportunities. We just didn't get it done, but we did go 4 quarters. We finished the game, and we were in the hunt to the last minute and a half, 2 minutes of the game where we had a shot to win it. So, the kids, they learned to compete, but then we kind of backpedaled a little bit and took it on the chin the next week. And then when we played Petersburg in week 2, and then we played Loop week 3, the last game we played, and we competed and had some opportunities in that game as well. So, it's taking little steps and learning how to compete, doing better than you did the day before in practice. We're talking about one of my coaches is, and all of us really, we're talking about get day by day. Let's get better. Let's get better day by day. Do better than what you did the day before. I've told my kids that I want 100% of what you got every day. Now, your 100% today might not be the same as your 100% was yesterday, whether it be because you've had a bad day or you've got things going on at home that's affecting your play. I just want 100%. Give me 100% of what you got. And that's what we're focusing on, trying to get better, competing with yourself, competing with each other, and having fun. That's the big thing, is they got to have fun or they're not going to stay in it.
And seeing them strides that you have this season, like you just mentioned, you're playing full games now, and that alone in itself is something worth cheering about. Now, I get people will argue no moral victories, but these little things do matter, how you just mentioned. Um, having spent your head coaching career since '07 and six man, how difficult is it, and how difficult would it be with this team when games get canceled? Because how do you keep them engaged? Because that is something six-man schools do struggle with at times when the other opponent can't field a team.
Yeah, well, that's part of trying to. Fortunately, we haven't, as far as the varsity game goes, we haven't lost one yet as far as being canceled. But we try to make sure that we're scheduling schools, and I inherited the schedule. Don't get me wrong, but we've made a tweak here and there. But we want to make sure that we schedule people going forward that we don't necessarily have to worry about them having to cancel a game because of their numbers or anything like that. We've got several Division II schools on the schedule, and then of course we're a Division I school. So, we want to get to that level of play where, there are Division II schools out there that are really good that you may not want to play, but we're going to play them. But we also want to be playing Division I schools that have the same numbers that we have, so that we can get better, because that's how you get better. And that's how you make sure you don't lose games because the other team doesn't have enough kids.
Yes, and being Wellman's a small community. Have you been able to find that support from the community that kind of will be needed to get this thing rolling? Start seeing, hey, people are coming to our games. Like, this is exciting. We're not just playing till halftime and they're seeing the band and going home. There's still more excitement later. Is that something you've seen so far?
Well, it is really, and that's, of course, I wasn't here in the past. Obviously, that, but from what everybody has told me, that, the outpouring of support and the excitement from the community has been amazing. And it has. I mean, our cheerleaders are amazing with how they're doing things and getting the fans involved. And it's been exciting. It's been really very exciting considering the previous track record, so to speak. We've had fans in the stands, and a lot of times when you come in and you have a team that hasn't competed, you don't have that. But we've been fortunate, and we're hoping to keep going in the right direction, so that, obviously, winning puts people in the seats. Well, we're winning in the fact that we've competed, but now we need to go ahead and do the final thing and get that W column, break that streak, and start a new streak for ourselves.
Oh, yes. I mean, when that day does happen, because it will, I imagine it's going to be one to you can definitely enjoy the night after that and get ready the next day, but be able to enjoy that one.
For
One
sure.
thing
For sure.
I'm very curious about, Coach York, is we've talked about your success. We've talked about you finding success and basically everywhere you've been, and also your challenge and your want to actually coach. What are some big qualities that you feel somebody who is going to take over a program, how you've taken and how you've had the schedule in hand that you must possess in order to be successful? And I'm not necessarily talking about wins and losses. How you said, being able to understand when to recognize the small wins and when to know that you can go for a little bit more.
Yeah, it all starts. It doesn't matter what avenue you're in, what business you're in, what profession you're in. It all starts first with building relationships, and especially dealing with young adults and young kids or older kids, however you want to look at them. They have to know you care. I mean, everybody says that, but do they know you care? Do you coach them hard, but then you pick them up when after you've coached them hard? It's a thing that um, build relationships first, and then know that. And I tell my kids, I tell my coaches, my fellow coaches, I'm like, guys, and I'm telling it to myself also when I say this. I said, you got to understand, we got to be patient, and we got to take baby steps, gradual steps, so that they're improving. We're focusing on fundamentals, and we're getting better every day. Every day we're getting better, and we just got to be patient and celebrate the successes. Finishing a game, yeah, we celebrated a lot. No, I mean a lot. I mean, we celebrated and we talked about, hey, we finished the game. That's a great start. Could we have won the game? Yes. How could we have won it? We talked about what we could have done differently to maybe win this game or win that game or whatever. But it's taking baby steps. It's being patient, not trying not to get frustrated. And believe me, it's tough for me knowing that, hey, we could have got this game if we would have done this or done that. And when we don't win a game, it's because we didn't get them ready, us coaches. It's not about the kids. It's about us coaches getting them ready. When they win, it's theirs. It's their win because they're out there on the field. So it's taking little steps and just having fun.
I really want to expand on the coaches aspect. I like that because it was a good segue for my next question. I'm not for sure how involved you were in the hiring process or the uh, being able to pick your assistants for this season. I'm not 100% sure on that. But in the past, and if so this season, what are some things that you catch your eye? Because like you've mentioned a couple of times, you got to have the right people involved in the process to kind of get things where you envision them in the finish line. Well,
Right.
what do you look for when you're hiring people and looking at resumes and talking to them?
Well, the first thing that I like to look at is what kind of person do we have? What kind of person are we interviewing? What kind of person do we want to hire? We want someone that is a good person first, someone that's going to relate with kids and know what it takes to work. That's the first thing. Is it a good? Are they a good fit? Are they a good person? We can teach them and mold them the way that we want things done. They don't have to know everything. I mean, I don't know everything. I'm continually learning. The day that you know everything, or the day that I know everything, it's time for me to retire, because I mean that day's not going to happen. There's still a plethora of coaches out there that we can learn from, and even young coaches. Because I tell my coaches when they come in, I want someone that, going back on how do I hire or what do I look at, I want somebody that's going to come in and give their opinion. Doesn't mean I'm going to go with their opinion, but I want them to coach and talk about things that they think are going to work. And that's how they grow also. If it's something great, I mean, there's been things that we've done this year even that, I like that idea, let's do it. But at the end of the day, whose head's on the chopping block, so to speak. If it's not something that I think sound, hey, don't get your feelings hurt if we don't do what you recommended or you think we should do. Understand that I've been doing this a long time, so we'll keep looking at things, but always give your input. Be willing to work as a coach. Know and that's the big thing. I mean, there's a lot of big things, but one of the things is, if you're going to coach, you got to be willing to do the work. We look for people that are not trying to be out of the parking lot before the kids leave the locker room, because it doesn't work that way. And, there's unfortunately there are several out there that, not here, but there are several out there that, hey, kids are in the locker room, I'm out. See y'all tomorrow. And you don't build relationships by being out of the locker room before the kids are.
Uh, yes, you couldn't have said it any better. I feel like I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen and heard from different coaches about them types of coaches that like only think it's a 9 to 5 job. Like this is only whenever I have to care or assume and pretend like I'm caring. And going back to like coaches and wanting to take that next step, if a coach is looking at going into their first head coaching job, well, was there any advice that you would recommend for them to either have prepared during an interview or kind of like have their mind in a certain way to approach interviews, or is there any advice you might have on that?
Well, I would say do your research. Know the school that you're going to try and get that first head job or that head job for. Uh, be sure that you feel like you're ready and be confident. You go into that interview process. You've got to be confident that that's what you want to do. And the biggest thing is everybody wants to be a head coach. I say everybody. A lot of people want to be a head coach, but not everybody is a head coach, and that's okay. And just because you're not a head coach, or maybe you are a head coach, the biggest thing, whatever role you're in, is you got to be willing to do what it takes to get the job done. And just like we were talking about, it's not a 9 to 5 job. There are so many things that head coaches do behind the scenes that people don't have a clue. And you've got to be that guy. If you're going to be a head coach, show the initiative to do what's needed, because there's not going to be anybody there to tell you, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. You better have paid attention with your previous head coaches and what they've done. Ask them for advice before you start going. Most head coaches, I don't know any head coaches that aren't going to help their assistants get a head job if you're working, and they're gonna help you, and they're gonna tell you what to prepare for. Visit with your head coach before you go interview for a head job, because they're gonna call him or her or whoever it is and find out what kind of job you've done. And
Mm-hmm.
head coach is going to tell you, hey, you probably need to coach another year, or hey, who you want me to call? Who you want me to call? I'll help you get that first job. So use your head coach to help you with that first job.
I like how you said you got to use your relationships. How you just finished that. Use your head coach. Use your relationships to get that job. Has there been a point in your career that you've just kind of felt that I maybe I need to walk away, maybe not again, because people like to say that the generations are getting hard to work with, harder to work with. Has that came across to you, or the way you approach things from a coaching standpoint, you've been able to kind of shift with the tide?
You shift with the tide, and you shift with kids, but you don't shift your your principles. You
Hmm.
don't change, the ground that you stand on. And if it is, when it's that time, then it's probably time to get out, because you have to go home and you have to sleep knowing that, hey, I did the right thing. I tell my coaches, I said, we're going to make decisions based on what we feel is best for our kids and our community. And as long as you're doing that and you're making those decisions, then when you're making that decision or doing the decision process, you're going to be in the right, in my eyes. Obviously, there's always, hey, what if we did it this way? What if we did it that way? But shifting away, the generations do change. You do have to adjust. And I tell the kids when I got here, I say, I'm old school. I don't sugarcoat. Don't wear your feelings on your sleeve, because I'm going to tell you, hey, you missed this block. This is how you fix it. You missed
Hmm.
it twice. You're not listening. You're not being coachable. Let's step up and do what you got to do. It's generations have changed. It's the thumb generation is what some coaches say. And you know what I mean when I'm saying
Yeah.
that. So, but if you're playing football or basketball or whatever on the thumb generation, you're still learning the game.
Hmm.
But make sure you get outside and do something physical, because it ain't the
Have,
same You
Absolutely,
know?
it's not the same. It's not the same. I mean, you can sit there and be, I mean, you can sit there and throw for 1,000 yards on the game, but you ain't gonna do nothing on the field unless you physically go do it. You know, one thing I really like about this interview is you've talked about the challenges, and we've talked quite a bit about challenges. Has there ever been a point in your life that you didn't want a challenge, or is that just kind of what made you who you are and kind of why you've been successful at particularly six-man schools? Because some people may argue they're always going to be a challenge, one way or another.
And they are. I mean, coaching in itself is a challenge. It doesn't
Mhm,
matter if you're at a winning program. That I mean, don't and I don't take this wrong, but don't fool yourself. If you're in a winning program, that's a heck of a challenge
mhm,
because you're only as good as you did last year.
mhm,
You know, I mean, there's been countless of coaches that I mean, they may have gone to the deepest they've been in the playoffs ever. All of a sudden, everybody in the community knows what's best, and you didn't do what you should have done to get to the next game.
mhm,
So those are challenging jobs too, and
mhm.
you know, so it's there's always a challenge. As far as getting out of it, you know, I haven't. I mean, I'm getting close to retirement age and all that kind of good stuff, but I still love what I'm doing. When I don't love it, is the time to retire. I love working with kids, and as far as the challenges, I was brought up. You know, my dad always told me, "Hey, do what you can and do your best at it. If you're somewhere, you leave it better than what it was when you got there." So that's kind of been my life's story is trying to make things better than they were when I got to a place. When I leave there, that place is better,
I
whatever the
like
case
that.
is.
I mean, yeah, that's something that I feel like a lot of people go a long way because it just doesn't pertain to coaching. That's something that can pertain to any bit in life. And we've talked about you having the break in your coaching, but before you even got involved in coaching, I understand you said this was your calling, this was like you felt like you were meant to do. Was there any chance that you were going to do something else?
Well, I started out when I was in when I started college. Started at a junior college down in San Antonio, and I thought, well, I'm going to try this engineering gig, and then I decided, nah, that's maybe too much math for me. I mean, I thought about other things, and I've argued with people growing up and in high school. Thought about maybe even looking at being an attorney and stuff like that. And it just, I coached some summer league stuff when I was younger, when I was going through college, and I thought I had it figured out, and I didn't. And when I coached those teams, I'm like, man, this is it. This is what I got to
Mhm,
do. I'm not one of those guys that knew from day one when I started college what I wanted to do, but then
mhm.
I figured it out. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's been very good.
Well, I think that's very helpful for a lot of people because it's never too late to do something different. I mean, it's never too late to kind of go into something different and try a new journey. But I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm very curious. I've asked people this question. I started making gratitude kind of more important in my life. Not kind of, I have.
Right.
So it's something that we easily forget about. It's easy to complain about the way things are today and about our situations, but it's hard to sit back and kind of be like, hey, I'm thankful for this. What are three things in your life, Coach York, right now that you're thankful for?
I'm thankful for having God in my life and praying, and that's something we do with the kids. I know there's a lot of they say you're not supposed to or whatever, but we're going to do it. We pray and we talk about doing things right, and making God in our walk, and doing things that would glorify His name. You know,
Mhm,
I'm thankful for my wife and my family. Without my wife, there's no way I could have done this for as long as I've done it. She is a great supporter. My kids are too. Like I said earlier when we were visiting, that of course they've graduated and out of school and all that, but we still talk. And I've got a son and a daughter, and we still talk and do things together, and it's fun. Um, and I'm thankful for opportunities to compete. Right now I'm thankful for Wellman Union giving me the opportunity to come try and make a difference in these young adults' lives, and help them experience some of those successes. So
and I like to hear that. Now, I do have one more question. It just prompted in my head. Uh, I gotta ask it. Were you able to coach your son at any time?
I was actually it was a blessing for me to. I coached both my son and my daughter at different stages. We've something that a lot of people may or may not know. Some people in the 6-man community, we've been very blessed to have a lot of success, obviously in football, but also on the track, in track and field. I was able to coach both of my kids in the state track meet. My son two state track meets. We won the sprint relay his junior year, and then his senior year we won the sprint and the 4x2, and we won the state track meet when we were at Water Valley. My daughter went in her junior year. We were able to get to the state track meet in the sprint and the 4x2. And of course, there's 3 other people on those relays, so it makes a difference that you have some speed. And then I was able to coach her in basketball her senior year also. So yes, to answer your question in a long roundabout way, and that's a tough situation for coaches coaching kids also, because people are like, well, not everybody, but sometimes it's like, well, that kid's playing because his dad's the coach.
Mm.
And that's okay, because that wasn't the case, but that's all right.
Mm-hmm.
They both were very good at what they did.
Yeah, well, I guess it's kind of like a Deion Sanders with his 2 boys on both sides of the ball, kind of that situation. That's kind of what obviously kind of pushed me getting back into this direction is I got 2 young boys, and my daughter, I think we both agreed it's best for me to kind of be like somebody just to give advice to, a little mentor. Maybe not coach so much, but my boys, that's something I'm definitely looking forward to. Now, about your daughter and your son, is this something you look forward to? Like you were ready to take on that to be able to coach them, or was it something, if it happens, it happens?
Yeah, it was one of those things where, we were at small schools whenever they got old enough. Of course, I coached my son in Little League all the way up. That time when I was out of the business, so to speak, and was doing private business, I was coaching him in Little League baseball and youth football and basketball, all that kind of stuff. So I was around him. And even before that, when he was a little guy and I was at the 11-man schools, he was always on the sideline, with us. So, he grew up all around it. He was, the thing that you build with your kids is a unique situation, because if they're around you a long time, you have a coach on the field because they know what you're thinking. They know what you're wanting to happen. And the kids rally around them because they realize, hey, this guy knows what's going on. He knows what coach is talking about. So it's a lot of fun. I would tell you, there are some tough spots. If the kid doesn't deserve to play, if he's your kid, be able to realize that and use him when it's the right time. But if he's able to play and he's good enough to play, put him in, regardless of what everybody says. Because we've always had it. We're going to play the best kids. Simple as that. Doesn't matter who they are. Doesn't matter, where they're from, whatever. And yes, I have favorites, and they're the ones that are going to help me win. Simple as that.
A lot of people, I like that you say it, because a lot of people were kind of complaining about the Urban Meyer documentary about how he's like, I got star players, I treat them like stars, and my other players, I don't. If you want to be treated like a star, be a star. And I like how his players came to his aid. It's like he's just saying what everybody does, and at the end of the day, your name's on the win or loss, and ultimately, that is your livelihood. That is what provides for your kids. So I definitely get it.
Yeah, and when I say that, I have favorites. I'm not going to. I treat the kids equally. They're all treated. I believe I treat them all the same. I'm hard on all of them. Coach them all hard. Coach them up. But when you don't have favorites, I think you're kidding yourself. I've got kids that aren't players on the field that they're my favorites. They just, they're still favorites for other reasons. So I love working with the kids. I love working with kids. Let me rephrase that aren't afraid to work, and they're wanting to reach that next level.
Well, I appreciate your time, Coach York. One thing I do want to say is thank you. But before we sign off, I just want to see, is there anything you want to say, anything that we may not have covered that you feel like may need to be said?
No, it's one of those things. Don't be afraid to take a challenge. If you're going into the coaching profession, don't be afraid to take a challenge. Everybody wants to go win now. Trust me, I hate losing more than anybody. But we have our little wins every week. Of the past 3 weeks, we've had some wins. We've found things that are positive, and it's always don't lose sight of what the main goal is. And the main goal is to prepare these kids for life, because athletics, regardless of what sport, will teach us to compete and never give up in life. And that's what it's all about, doing things right in God's eyes, and trying to make everything better.
Absolutely, Coach York. I couldn't have said it any better. Well, you have a good evening, and good luck the rest of the season. Hopefully we can make a big announcement and graphic whenever Wellman gets their first win of the season.
Awesome. Thanks, Victor. Thanks for having me, and go Wildcats, baby. We're going.